This is a weird one. I just gotta kind of pause and stop. I'll explain on the other side. Welcome to the Time Treadmill. I'm Ron, and these are my sweaty thoughts about Doctor Who. A couple of quick bits of housekeeping before I get on to Shada. I wanted to note that starting today, I am back to physical media. I'm totally done with watching streaming versions of stories. From this point forward, through the current modern series, I have DVDs or Blu-rays of every single story I'm going to watch. Except for the later seasons of Sarah Jane Adventures, but I'll deal with those when I get there. So, I am very happy to be back in the land of physical media. I'm a software geek, I love technology, but streaming video for this project kind of leaves something to be desired for me. But that's the minor thing. The major bit of housekeeping. Yesterday I weighed in at under 280 for the third day in a row, and today will be the fourth day in a row, presumably. The last time I strung that many consecutive days under 280 was all the way back in July, which not coincidentally was when my mother passed away. It's no great shock that I've been struggling a little bit with focus and commitment in the last few months, but I feel like I've finally sort of turned a corner back towards the positive, and I'm properly focused and really back in motion, and I am so thrilled to be able to be registering numbers again for actually losing some weight. Not that weight per se matters. I've said before, but not for a while. Weight in terms of a target goal is not the point of this project, but the fact remains that I am vain enough to want to be a little bit lighter than I currently am at this moment. So, there you have it. That's all the housekeeping. Moving on to Shada. Shada is the most infamous story in Doctor Who history. It was supposed to be the 6-part season finale for Tom Baker's next to last season, and unfortunately production was halted partway through due to labor strikes. After a certain point, the entire story was just scrapped, never to see the light of day, or so it would seem. Bits and pieces of the story were picked up and reused in other ways. Some footage from it was used in the 25th anniversary special, The Five Doctors, when Tom Baker declined to return to the show for the holiday, having just left it. He felt it was too soon for him to be coming back in and overshadowing the next Doctor. And also, Douglas Adams, who wrote this story, wound up reusing many of its elements in his novel Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency. He did so because, again, the project had completely folded and was never going to see the light of day. But there was so much pent-up fan curiosity and interest in this, the most epic of lost stories, that in 1993 the BBC produced a VHS that used all of the existing footage, and then Tom Baker recorded new linking narration to fill out the story. And so in 1993 we got our first sort of reconstruction of Shada. But it really wasn't much. Then in 2003, before Doctor Who was rebooted for the modern era, and in the early days of the web being a huge thing, and especially early days for streaming storytelling, Shada was again adapted, this time with Richard E. Grant playing the role of the Doctor, specifically playing the role of the 9th Doctor. And the story itself was slightly modified to accommodate that change, but otherwise it was the same story. And so finally in 2003, we got a complete watchable version of Shada, but it wasn't what it was originally intended to be. And I will get around to watching that streaming version in a couple of months when I get to that point in the timeline. I have to wrap up the 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th Doctors first, and then I will be watching Shada again. But what I'm watching today and tomorrow and the next day is a 2017 animated reconstruction of Shada that also employs all of the live-action footage, and it is beautifully well done. The animation is done by the same studio that did Power of the Daleks, and contrary to some of the newer reconstructions, as I say, it uses both live action and animated footage. The trend now for reconstructions is to animate all of the episodes of a story, even if there are existing episodes still in the BBC archives. This is to create a package that's palatable for television broadcasters. Viewers tend to be put off by a story that moves back and forth between live action and animation for no apparent reason. But for Shada is something special, something very dear to the fans, and so in this release, they have perfectly kept all possible existing live footage and then beautifully melded in the animated sequences. And I am loving it. The only downside to how it was adapted was it was produced not in 6 individual episodes, but instead as a single feature-length film. That means that as I'm watching it, I just kind of have to divide up the runtime into thirds, and I watched about 44 minutes this morning and then paused it at a vaguely appropriate moment. It certainly wasn't an episode break, but it seemed like a good enough time to stop for today. As for the story itself, well, I need something to talk about for the next 2 days, so I suppose I'll get to it then. I'll see you tomorrow.